you everyone for being here. Today we're here to discuss the first year of enforcement of the city's hand-free ordinance, which prohibits the handling of electronic devices while driving a vehicle. This is an important topic, and the more discussion surrounding this ordinance, the more it will make our streets safer. This is the number one objective of this is changing behavior. As many of you know, this issue hits home for me. Several years ago, my family was involved in a car crash caused by a distracted driver. It was a crash that was 100% preventable. And the pain and hardship that created, not only for me, but really for my family, was not something I would want anyone to go through. Our experience and the many other stories I know where the outcome was far worse led me to introduce this ordinance to City Council. And again, I always thank my colleagues for supporting this initiative. We are now 1 year into the enforcement of the hands-free ordinance, and we're making progress. Last month, Allstate Insurance ranked Huntsville the 12th safest driving city in the country, and that's a great accolade, but it doesn't mean that there isn't progress to be made. Huntsville police have issued a number of warnings and citations under that ordinance, but citations aren't the finish line. They are a means to an end. The goal is awareness and bringing attention to driver behavior and the dangers of not being 100% present and focused when you're behind the wheel. We all want our fellow drivers to treat us respectfully when we're on the road, and we should do the same for them. So wait to send that text message or wait to make that phone call or to watch your favorite movie while you have one eye on the road, one eye on the movie. I've observed this type of behavior, and it's not just reckless, it's unacceptable. And now I'd like to welcome Police Chief Kirk Giles to the podium.
One year ago today, the City Council and the City of Huntsville took a bold step to try to protect our community by enacting and enforcing the hands-free ordinance. But since that time, we've been the focus of shifting both behavior and expectation behind the wheel. We have made progress, but there's still a lot of work to do. Distracted driving remains to be one of the leading causes of crash across this country. It's not just a bad habit, but it's a dangerous one that can have devastating, even fatal consequences. Holding a phone, even for just a few seconds, can be the difference between life and death. And it's not just the driver who's at risk, it's everybody who shares that road. This ordinance allows our officers to confront distracted driving directly. By elevating it from a secondary to a primary offense, we can intervene earlier before distraction turns into a disaster. We're seeing signs that some drivers are adjusting, but let me be clear about this. There's still too many people who are either unaware of the law or just choosing to ignore it. Changing driving culture and behavior takes time. Enforcement helps, but education and personal responsibility are key to this. This ordinance is more than about writing tickets. It's about building safer habit that lasts and making our roads safer. I do want to thank Councilman Little and the City Council for their leadership and vision in making this a law a reality. Their dedication to public safety is making a difference in our community. We'll continue to push forward until the safe, hand-free driving becomes second nature for everyone here in Huntsville. Now I'd like to turn this over to Sergeant Chris Jackson, our Public Information Officer, who will walk us through the data that we've gathered over this past year.
Thank you, Chief. Over the past year, our department has been working hard to address distracted driving in real time. Between July 1st, 2024 and July 1st of 2025, Huntsville Police Department issued 190 citations, 112 written warnings under the hands-free ordinance. Each of those was an opportunity and interaction to reinforce the message that driving demands your full attention. Our goal with this ordinance was never about seeing how many tickets that we could write. It's about changing the behavior, as Chief Giles and Councilman Little said. We've seen encouraging and promising signs, but our work is far from done. Many of y'all have asked, has this ordinance made an impact on traffic safety? And I would love to stand up here and show you the promising numbers and signs, but that's just not how this is going to work. Think back to when the seatbelt law went into effect. It took time for that message to sink in, for habits to shift, and for people to make safety a priority. We may not actually ever see those numbers show up, because remember, the goal in this is not about how many tickets we can write. It's about the lives that we save, the crashes that didn't happen, the injuries that didn't happen, the tragedies that we don't have to tell families. Cultural change doesn't happen overnight. With that said, please understand our efforts are not going to stop. We will continue to educate drivers, reinforce the importance of staying focused behind the wheel. As Chief Giles just mentioned, we are committed to creating a lasting change, and we'll keep showing up. We're going to keep educating and engaging in hands-free until it's no longer just something that we say, but it's a habit for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief and Sergeant Jackson. As you've heard, this ordinance matters, and enforcement will continue. But more than that, we're asking drivers in Huntsville to take personal responsibility when they're behind the wheel. We all want the same thing: safer streets, safer neighborhoods, and safer outcomes for everyone who gets in a car. No one wants a knock on the door only to see one of our officers or a state trooper or a sheriff's deputy standing there to tell you that a loved one has been killed in a crash that is preventable. Thank you. We'll be glad to take any questions.
Do you have any questions? Obviously this, goes for when you're driving, but do you guys want to touch on how this applies for people who are sitting at stoplights? Because I feel like people want to put the phone down more likely when they're driving, but it's very easy to be at a red light, look down, finish that text, and then continue driving.
Right. That was discussed a lot when we were working on this ordinance. I think if you're looking at your phone at a red light, that what if something happens out in front of you that you didn't see? So now you can't be a good neighbor and be a witness and maybe tell the police, hey, this guy ran a red light or whatever. But if you're sitting there and the light turns green and everybody's waiting and you're obstructing traffic, now that's probably an issue. And I think you probably could be issued a citation for slowing down traffic. More questions?
I was going to ask, I know the state has a rule against it. Can you explain the difference between the state, the rule on the state level as opposed to?
That's a great question. I worked with advocates and our reps for probably 5 years, lobbying, for a stronger hands-free law in the state, and they just couldn't get their act together down there. And so 2 years ago, they passed what I would call a very watered-down version of what we wanted. Essentially what the city already had, which was a no texting ordinance, which was very hard to enforce. It was a secondary offense, which means you had to be speeding, swerving, not using a turn signal, doing something else to get pulled over to then be cited for using your phone. So that's the way the state is now. It's completely ineffective, in my opinion. And this is personal to me. So the hands-free is a primary offense. So if a police officer sees you with your phone in your hand, he can pull you over. End of story. That's the difference. And I also learned, if anybody's curious, a city can make a stronger law than a state. We can't go backwards.
I have one more. This might be more directed to the police department. Obviously for 6 months you guys said we were kind of in a warning period, but for the last 6 months that's when it's really been enforced.
It's been a year.
Or sorry, excuse me, a year.
Since
sorry.
July, yeah.
Gosh, it's July. It's already been a year, but for the next year or the unforeseen future, is it going to be stricter, or have we already hit that full-blown strict period if we see it, we're pulling you over, no warnings?
That's a great question. I think a lot of that's going to come down to that interaction between the driver and the officer. One of the greatest things that law enforcement has is discretion, right? So as you're interacting with them, you're able to see their driving history and their driving record. And sometimes that message of how is distracted driving dangerous, and telling them, hey, for 5 seconds, when you look down to send that text message, you've traveled over the length of a football field. That's why I pulled you over. You could have hurt yourself. So I will say it's going to be up to the individual officer to make that determination.
And let me also emphasize, as Sergeant Jackson referred to earlier, the seatbelt law. It took time to take advantage. We still run campaign strictly on seatbelts, clicker to ticket, things of that nature that's funded by the state. So you're going to see the same emphasis in respect to, we're always going to be looking for violations, because, again, I'd much rather write a ticket than work a wreck.
I just want to reiterate, this isn't a phone. It's a computer that happens to have a phone app. and it's got the weather, and it's got games, and it's got social media, and it all, it takes me like 10 swipes to get through every single app, you know? And so people aren't necessarily just making phone calls. They're engaging in social media. You know, I know a mother of a young lady who was sending a happy birthday message to a friend that drove into the back of a stopped 18-wheeler down in Alabaster. So it's not just making phone calls. So we got to always remember that.
Yeah. Another one for the police. Excuse me. How has how has the reactions been or feedback y'all getting when y'all stop people for these infractions? What are they like? Hey, I didn't know, or what kind of reaction do you have?
So that's also a great question. You're looking at an ordinance that was passed within a year. We've done, I believe, a pretty phenomenal job of educating the public that its existence. But the city of Huntsville is a growing city. There are more and more people moving here every single day. And there are still people out there who have not gotten the message, and they are very shocked. And a lot of them are actually super appreciative on those contacts. They weren't aware of it, and they appreciated the education and the awareness to try to reduce traffic crashes.
Good. Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate you.